You ready?
Oh,
Hey. Guess who it is? It is I. I am back. It's DJ Maya. This is the Mad Chatter Show. And by now, you have been listening to probably for about a good hour. So this is the second half, what I like to call the podcast hour. And as you know, every week we go from 10 to midnight every Friday night, Eastern Standard Time. For those of you who are listening in the neighborhood, you have tuned into WVEWLP 107.7 FM, Brattleboro's community radio that we love so much. And for those listening around the world, my friends, way over yonder, you have tuned into WVEW.org. Please check out the website and check out the other shows and all that good stuff. And I like to say, the views and opinions expressed on this program are those of me and my co-host, my DJ, and my guests, and not of the radio station. So keep your negative shit to yourself. We don't want it. We don't care about all that. So for those who are down the spiritual rabbit hole and are ready for some uncensored good stuff, we are here to let it ride. So DJ Pooh Bear, welcome back. Would you like to say hello and let everybody know who you brought for us today to interview?
hello again from Alberta, Canada. And you kind of nailed it right off the top there, DJ Maya. You said our friends around the world, and I have brought a friend all the way from New Zealand this week. It's a friend that I made through Rob Killel over at Typical Skeptic. I first saw her on his show and found her absolutely fascinating. Had her on my show. She's been on Surviving with Spinja, and now she's here with us once again. Is our new friend Stone Hobbit.
Yay, welcome. Hello, Stone. Say hello.
Hi, guys. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to the madness.
Yes. My mate over there in New Zealand, I had a past life in New Zealand, they say.
Oh, yeah. Whereabouts do you think you were? Top or south, North Island or South Island?
That part I do not know. All I know is it was in the 13th century.
Oh, okay.
And I was a witch doctor.
All right.
Go figure.
Well, we have a short history here in New Zealand, Aotearoa. We go back to just before the 18th century, the Maori, and then it turned into the Maori. So, and we're not sure 100% who was here before that, but that sort of gets into the areas of we've always been here. So we just sort of, but we've got legends of giants with ginger hair and white-haired, fair-skinned fairies that live in holes and all sorts. So, witch doctors, mate. I've been a witch doctor a few times round, and I can't say what centuries and stuff. I can just tell you locations and what I was doing at that particular time. So
nice.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, before you get, before we go all the way down the rabbit hole, we can circle around the hole for a minute. Would you like to just tap in briefly a little bit about the folklore in New Zealand? I've never really heard any folklore. I would love to just briefly hear. I know you could probably have a whole hour about it, but some of your favorite stories or childhood stories or anything like that you'd like to share?
As I grew up next to a volcano called Rainbow Mountain was its nickname. And this is down near Rotorua. And I was told that once all the trees from the volcano had gone, then the taniwha, which is what we call monsters, taniwha, will be released. And me particularly, there was a group of selected individuals that weren't allowed to go into certain locations. It's tapu. And I was allowed to go into some other locations that normal people couldn't go because of, the circumstances, family bloodlines, this sort of thing. And I used to not be allowed to go into Lake Taupo, which is the biggest lake in the North Island of New Zealand. Anyway, one day, I 40 years had gone by, and I decided I wanted to go for a swim in Lake Taupo. So I still had a lot of really heavy programming, saying if you go in there, you're going to get dragged under the water and we'll never see you again because they're going to take you to the underworld. And there are a lot of stories that, coincide with Lake Taupo having an entrance into the center of the earth. And it not, it being bottomless and all of these other little legends that I grew up with. So I went into the water and I only went up to my ankles, and I felt like this, I could see this translucent eel. I don't know if you know what an eel is. It's like a snake, but it's actually not a snake. It's an eel. The eel is one of our great legends here in New Zealand, Aotearoa. In Australia, they have the Dreamtime snake. Well, we have the eel. And it was translucent and it was swimming around my ankles. And I was like, because I work with knots, tying rope and stuff like this, I saw what it was doing, and I was able to lift my foot at the right time so I didn't get tripped up. But that was enough for me to say, okay, well, there is something there and it's happening to me. So I'm going to back out of this water. And now I had my friends were all swimming there, and I went backwards out of the water and stuff and stayed on the shore. And I was like, no, I can't let these fear factors keep playing this role in my life. Not after everything that I've managed to break through. I've got to get in. I want to go for a swim. It's a hot day. I want to go for a swim. So I went in there, and I was in there for a couple of minutes, and I had friends around me who knew why I wouldn't go in there for a swim. So they were like sort of on guard. And I'm standing there in the water, and I'm actually really enjoying having this little dip. And I decided, okay, well, that's it, I'm going under. So I put my head under the water. And it was like I could hear all of these voices underwater, and I felt almost like I was being called. And I was relaxed. I wasn't in any fear state. And then I realized I was underwater and I needed to come up for some air. So I came up for some air, and I was smiling to my friends around me, and they were like, "Okay, she's safe." I'm like knee high weight, knee high water height, just making sure that I can get out of the water as fast as I could. So I went under again, and this time when I went under, something grabbed my feet. Something literally grabbed my ankles and started yanking me. And my two friends, there was one on each side, saw me getting pulled towards the deeper part of the lake, going out into the middle. And I put my hand up, and as soon as I put my hand up, my friend who was standing on the side grabbed me, and he could feel the pressure. He could feel that I was actually being pulled. So I managed to get out of the water, and I never went back in. And I've not been back in it since. And it's only a couple of hours drive from me. I won't go back in. I've had similar things with the ocean around us. I was on a ferry one day. A ferry is like a boat that goes from one port to another. And I was looking over the side of it, and I saw this big orange sort of skin sort of thing come out of the water, and then this eye opened up, and it was looking at me. And I said to my friend, look, 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 what is that? What is that? And all the way home, we felt like it was following us. We had gone into the city because I lived on an island in the middle of the water, and then we had to catch a ferry into town, which was the city, Auckland City. And we went and saw a horror movie, and it just happened to be a stranding movie, okay? And it's funny how these things happen. So we're going out, I saw this thing, and then the boat broke down, and we're like stranded in the middle of the Gulf between Waiheke Island and Auckland. So we're like stranded there. We had to wait for another boat to come, and all of us get off one boat and onto another to get home. So we've had a few things. I've had close encounters of the shark kind. I used to believe that I have a lot of mermaid connections. I used to swim out really, really deep, eat kelp and then come back in again. I used to go into the water when I was living in Australia for a little while, Coogee Beach. I had dolphins come up, and whenever I went into the water, it was like they knew that I was there and they'd come down and play. You had all these other people along the beach, but they were there as soon as I went into the water, they were there. So I've had some unusual happenings with water. I was born next to a river, and hence the name being T. That's my name, T. Later on, I got called Stone because of the stones. The stones talk to me. There are so many myths and legends around here. We have the bird woman. We have there's just so many. There's just, where do you want me to go with it? I live not too far from a place called Kawhia. And in the caves of Kawhia, they found giants, orange, red-haired giants. And when the Maori buried our peoples, they buried them, hunched over like this, tied up, and then put in flax. And then they put them in the caves, and then they do lots of different rituals around it. Then they bring them out, and then they put them back in after everything's settled down. Now, these bones were moved to the Auckland Museum. This is miles away. And at one of our biggest museums in New Zealand, there's only two. There's the Wellington one, Te Papa, and then there's the Auckland War Memorial. And they said they had no room for them, so they got them disposed of. Now, we have a lot of history here in New Zealand that the government does not want to share with the public, because by doing that, the origins of the New Zealanders, the Maori, the Moriori, Vikings, whomever it was that have come here and visited, will be revealed. And they don't want that, because at the end of the day, it always comes back to who's got the power and who's got the control. So I have a lot of visitors that fly over. I have a lot of spirits that come and talk to me. As a seer, as a child seer, around 4 or 5, I walked into a marae. That's our meeting houses. And I was talking to the elderly that were walking around, and I was having a good old time, and I can remember it as if it was yesterday. All right, this is how these things come to me. It's like I will have an interaction. Someone's trying to get my attention then. I will have an interaction with someone and it never goes. It's always there. I say this to people: if you've had one encounter with one being, then that you will get that with everybody. Right? They will be able to hook on to that and come in. Sorry, you want to say something, Don?
Yeah, I actually just showed Maya something that you shared with me previously. It's in the chat. It's 2 pictures. And I don't know if you can bring it up so everybody who watches the video can see it as well, Maya. They're pretty damn fascinating.
How do I do that? It looks like a frog, but it's
It's
glowing and it's small.
The orbs. The orbs take the energy from our atmosphere and from us. And what they do is they use it and they morph into the closest creatures that our memory and the surroundings around us have. So it's like they are trying to tap into a memory imprint, either environmental memory or a memory from us. So
I don't know how to do it.
Sometimes people will see really scary things and freak out, but in actual fact, it's just the energy is absorbing their imprints and stuff, so that they think, okay, well, you are recognized with this, therefore I can communicate with you through that. But in actual fact, it's actually scaring you instead of the opposite. So there's, in the early days, I realized they kept coming to me in fear state, and they were using, I lost a son in the early days, and so they were using his images because of his emotional connection to me. they were using his images. And then it got to a stage where I didn't believe what they were in that image any longer because it was incorrect. And as soon as I called it out, their true selves were shown. So, and this is what some of these other energy forms do. So, yeah, that's that. I call that my fairy. That's my fairy
Can you
orb.
put that one up, Maya?
It looks like a frog to me, but it's got an extra arm.
Yeah. There's
Nice.
another
Like
there's
the
another
back
picture in
leg.
the chat.
I mean, it's
There's
not a
another
frog because it's, unless it's like a glowing frog, but the belly and the back leg, the way it's bent, that's the only thing that I can but it also looks like a spider.
Maya.
If you,
Obviously, it's not a glowing spider. Huh?
Maya, there's another picture in the chat.
Yeah, I know. Let me answer. The one with she's throwing it up.
I'm not throwing
Yeah.
anything. I'm just holding my hands out and it's coming to my
Oh,
forehead.
oh, it looks like you're like it was in midair, but your
That's
eyes
in
are.
me. I didn't even know it was there. My friend took a photo and she's like jumping around going, oh, you don't know what showed up.
Nice.
I've got them flying around me in big orb forms flying around me. When I did ghost hunting, paranormal activities is basically what it is. Anything that wants to communicate will communicate. One of us will have the same and have an imprint that it can hook onto and relate to. It's us as humans getting emotional, having a fear factor kick in and go, that then turns it into something that it doesn't actually need to be. So I've got hundreds, mate. I've got hundreds and hundreds of photos and videos of some very weird things showing themselves. I went and did a chat with a group one day, and this young girl was talking to me, and I said to her, look, I'm getting a heck of a lot of cats running around you. I can show you them in the photos. And they were showing up in photos, but nobody else could see them. And then I said, well, there's this big orb and it's really getting my attention and it's connected to you. And I took a couple of photos and it came out in a long line standing next to her. And then later on, I said I could feel it was a female presence because they also have a color coordination to them. The color equals the density, which equals whether it's a male or female energy. It's different for everybody. Everybody reads totally different. So I don't expect anybody to read the same way that I do. And when I'm picking up these energies and stuff, I said to her, it feels like she was a sister to you. And that's as far as I got in the connection before she started to cry and she burst out and said to me, it was my twin sister. So there's been some freaky incidences that have just sort of showed themselves. I went for a walk through a graveyard one day and I just like taking photos of the architect of old graves. I love doing it. That's when I first really started seeing that I'm picking up UFOs, I'm picking up, apparitions, I'm interacting with mist forms that then turn into solid forms walking past us. And I've had witnesses with me at the time walking around and this sort of thing starts to happen. When I took this particular photo, I was taking it for the architecture of the grave. And I felt like I was being watched, but I couldn't see where. It was in the middle of the day, but I couldn't see where. There was no presence around that I was actually, clicking onto, but I knew something was there. When I blew the photo up to get the best angle of it, I saw a man standing at the grave at a grave in the distance where my vehicle had originally been parked. And I thought, well, that's not a normal guy. I didn't see him there when I took this photo. So we went back to the cemetery and I took some more photos. And what I got was a full man standing there in 18th century clothing or garb, kit, whatever you want to call it, with a top hat. You could tell the different layers of clothing that he had on. He had a long tail jacket on with a black collar. He had the grey vest and it only came to his waist. And then you could see he had a way he had his hand, he had one thumb in his trousers next to what looked like a pocket watch. And I'm like, and he had a top hat on. And I'm like, wow. And then when I've shown it to other people, they've said, well, could you see this person over here and this person here too? So anyway, I took it back to the office and I said to them, can you tell me anything about this gravestone? And I ended up moving before they had given me all the details. They were hunting down a photograph of the male that this gravesite was actually, occupied by. So, but for all the other details that I had received, I'm quite comfortable saying that I truly believe that this was the entity that was laid to rest there. So there's been some pretty trippy things that have happened.
What about the top hat man that everybody sees? Do you think it was a different top hat man and not the one that shows up that scares people?
Oh no, I've had, that's a different sort. That's a different guy. This guy was actually the occupant, and the hat that he was wearing was pretty much of that era at that time. If he was of the gentleman persuasion, he would have not been found without a hat, without that hat. The other type of top hat person that I get is, before I really dove deep into understanding what the night terrors were. I'd get Slender Man, I'd get, night terror visitations from animals and things jumping on my chest and all sorts of movements around the room. And I wasn't the only one. In the early days, my partner, whoever my partner was at the time, would also have experiences of some very paranormal stuff going on and that. So yeah, they've seen stuff. My kids, they're all adults now with their own kids, have experienced a lot of stuff like night terrors. And what is the difference between a night terror and a nightmare? Well, a nightmare ends, a night terror doesn't. A night terror will take you into, you're going into another dimension. You can interact in ways, once you get past your fear factor and realize that the fear is just the fear factor they use to prevent you from bringing back the information and remembering it. You're bringing it back, it's an imprint, but you're not working with it. So you have a fear factor that goes, and everything goes out the window. It's gone. So, yeah.
Something I wanted to get your take on, Stone, because you seem to know a lot about things that go on in your sleep. I have what I can only explain as autopilot. Okay,
Yep.
I am completely functional while asleep. Spinja can ask me questions, talk to me. I get up, I can reason, I can eat, I can walk, I can use the restroom. I've even gotten shit for her, but I don't recall any of it. In fact, that's usually when I'm having my vivid dream experiences, we'll call them, or astral projections. But my body is not in that sleep state where like people get sleep paralysis. Mine is actually still fully functional. Yeah. And can like protect itself. Even like it has had arguments with her.
Yeah.
Right. Like yeah. while I was asleep, I've had full on arguments with her. And she's like, do you even remember what we fought about? I'm like, no. We had
I know. There are people out there that can actually cook meals, go down the shop and all of this, and come back and then go, where was I? What did I do? I don't remember doing this. How did I do this? I mean, I know that I've driven from A to B, but I don't remember the time in between. How did I get there? I knew I had a mission that I had to undertake, and so I must have gone on to autopilot. Some of the things that I have found is when I've gone, how can I put it, inner body, outer body, right? It's almost like another version of self has kicked in, has walked in and is taking over. Doesn't have to do too much, just alert me if something's not going according to plan, right? So if I start to burn something when I'm in that state, wake me up, let me know so that I can fix it. But while I'm not there, you're in charge from driving from A to B, cooking the meal, doing whatever, interacting. But you can't change too many things, right? You can't act like somebody else. This is like we have, for me, from my findings, splinter selves, splinter versions of self. So I can step in and look through the eyes of another version of me to see what they're doing in whatever time zone they're in. If they're living there and I'm connected to it, I can step in and go, oh, okay, I can't interact unless I'm being given permission. This is like possession if you do that. So I don't do that. It's you want to get better over there, I'll give you the information I've got here for the best betterment of this self, so that you over there can be the best version that you can be over there. Because whatever you do over there is going to affect me here. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
So like they say that when they look at the human blood, and that's one of the areas I worked in, they can't work out why we have so much DNA. Like if I was birthed here in New Zealand, why do I have imprints of foods and stuff I've never eaten before? So they class that down to either junk DNA, or they put it into, oh, somebody along your ancestral line might have interacted with it. So you have 0.01% of ancestral trait to it. But I'm on a different modality because of what I have interacted with, blood cells and stuff. They're living entities just on their own. Some of the stuff that I've seen in our lifetime here. I mean, I worked with bloods in a lab. They are individual living cells with their own rhythmia, with their own heartbeat. They have their own auric fields around them, protecting them. And when they get sick and old, they clump together. They look after each other, and they share that much energy from everyone to just get through. And this is no different to what we do as beings, human beings on this planet. So what I'm saying is a splinter self version of me somewhere else is eating whatever. I'm going to pick up on it. I'm going to get, where did that smell come from? I'm tasting something in my mouth. Where did that come from? I know I've never had that before, but I remember the sensations. I'm giving myself goosebumps. It's like had innate knowings, innate memories of this and that. How did I get it? Where did I get it from? I've been many versions of myself, and that's where I got it from. So does that help?
Yes. I recently did a session with somebody who, for the longest time, we had kind of figured out who he was from other people's sessions. And so I found out that he was Osiris. And so, which is my father in Atlantis, and his girlfriend is Isis, which is my mother, because I was one of their daughters, their twin daughters. And so, it was like, I was like, boy, it's so fantastical. Like, is that really real? Like, am I really finding these people? And then we did his session. He finally let me do his session. He was like, okay, I'm ready. Because he had to process this. He was like, this can't be. I'm connected to Horus. He just started, figuring it out. And when I did his session, sure enough, we got confirmation that, just like Dawn was saying, he was a truck driver. And so I like to call her my mother. My mother would drive with him. I call him mom and dad now, because I was like praying for new parents, no offense, mom, but I was like, I need some new parents, and here they come. And so when he drives with his head back, his eyes are closed, and he snores. And she freaks out. She's like, wake up. And he's like, I'm awake. And she's like, you're not. You're snoring. Your eyes are closed. And so in his session, I asked, like, is this real? Is he really doing this? And they're like, Yes, he is capable of doing many things. And so what happens, like Don, he's somewhere, he's somewhere else. And so autopilot kicks in.
Yep.
And he is on them roads driving with his eyes
Yep.
closed. I couldn't believe it. And so it's not the first time. I'm not surprised. I mean, when I'm driving and I get in my meditative state, I can tell when I'm zoned out. And they told me all it takes is a second. And as soon as you zone out, you have already been somewhere else.
Yeah.
And and I'm just like, okay. But yeah, there was something else I wanted to say. When you felt the hands, I have to go back a little bit. When you felt something grabbing you underwater, did it feel like something like a octopus type of thing wrapping around your legs, or was it like one big thing, or was it hands? Like, what did you feel?
It felt like hands, but if you've ever had a tentacle wrap around you, you'd see how very similar they were. It's like it's something's got hold of you. All right, it's not like a suction, like individual suctions, but it's like one big suction has got you, and it pulls you.
It's like a prickly snake.
Yeah.
Like a prickly snake wrapped around you.
Oh, mine wasn't prickly. Mine was like, you knew it was something grabbed me, something had hold of me, and I couldn't fight it. It was like whatever it was sent this fear factor shock through me. I'm already slightly on alert about, from all the childhood programming to do with going into this lake. And I've always been one to try to break any fear factor that has come my way. I'm the one that people leave behind in a bloody cemetery. It's not that they deliberately leave me behind, it's because I don't run fast.
You're like, I'm fine. I'll be here. I'm camping out. I got a good spot. Don't mind me. I got LED candles.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't worry. I don't allow myself to worry like that. And if I'm in the dark, and I can feel, I mean, I've made myself sit in dark rooms in new places, just so I can hear and see and get in communication with whatever might be in that in that house. And I'll talk to it and I'll say, like, I don't know why you're still here, but you must have loved it to be here. Show me what your connections are. And if you want to stay here, I'm here now too. So leave me and mine alone, and we will do our best to look after and love the environment that we've in, that you've been here, so we can work together. I've only ever had, I've had malicious entities in the house, but they were angry before I got there. So, and I've been able to I used to bless places and move spirits on and let them know that it's okay to move on. Some of them just won't. Some of them will just wait for their other versions of self to come along before they will move on. Sometimes, and I've found this with me, is like an entity is not going to move on. They're not waiting for another person in particular, like Joe Blow down the road. They're waiting for a version of themselves to come back. Okay. And the last place I was in, that's what I got. There was an entity in that house, and there was just so many coincidences that went on. I don't believe in coincidences, okay? But it's a spell casting language that most understand. But when I got there, all these coincidences just kept playing out over and over again. It was like, what is going on? And then one day, digging in the garden, I found an antique. I found a stone. And I thought, how ironic for me to find an antique, which is actually so valuable. It's just a piece of stone that's been carved away, but it was what the Maori used. It was what our elders used. It was the pocket knife, our modern pocket knife, but there's stone axe head. They're you know, the traditional tribal, you know, the sacrificial thing, the, you know, the carving for different reasons. It was used for everything. And here I am digging in the garden and I find one. You know, a stone finds a stone. There are so many areas we haven't discovered. We don't even know what's in the depths of our ocean. You know, you have to allow yourself to realize that you have all of this planet's DNA within you from so many different stages of our evolution. I know that I've been back several times. We'll just leave it at several. I appreciate when somebody comes along and says they were famous over here or over there and stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say I'm a splinter version of, I remember this and this at that particular era. I may have just been a walk-in for a little while, got some information and walked out and moved on to the next version of me. But I'm not going to say I am A, B, or C. I'm not going to do that. So, yeah. I mean, I've met so many people that have all said, oh, we're all this person. You know, how can you all be that person at the same time?
Because we are multidimensional beings and we are simultaneously living these lives all at once, forward and back. So when I do past life regressions, this is what I uncover. You know, Rob was Imhotep.
Oh yeah,
You remember the Mummy, the movie The Mummy? That was his story. So I got to see both sides because the girl he was dating had the other part of the story. I've met Oscar Wilde. I've met a few people, Akhenaten. I've met a few people. It's fascinating to me though to be able to to connect when I do connect with them. You know, I'm just gonna say, I found out for me, I will see for me it was important because I'm a suicidal survivor. I needed to know that I needed to be here. Like I don't want to be here. I needed to know like why am I here? And so for me, one of the things on my journey, I needed to know about Jesus. It was like a big deal. I grew up Catholic and switched to Christian, and I just wanted to know, like, I just needed something, you know, but yeah, it was just crazy. I didn't want to be a Jesus freak forever, but I needed to know. And so one day I went within and I was like, this is one of my changes. I said, I need to know if he existed. I want to see him on the cross. And so I used to imagine since I was 15 that I could see the future and go back. Like I felt like a seer. I don't know if it was in my head, but I would meditate and I would see myself. So I saw myself going back and imagining seeing him on the cross, and instantly I was flooding with tears. And I was like, oh, so I guess he's real. That was real. And then in my hypnosis session, one of the things I needed to know was I wanted to speak with him. So I spoke with him and Mary Magdalene. That was like something important I needed to know in this life. Come to find out, I'm a fractal of Mary Magdalene and my husband's a fractal of Yeshua. And he is from the tribe of Levi. He's connected to King David. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too real. And he's a spiritual person, you know, he's on his journey. It's crazy. But he doesn't see it like that. He's just like, oh, whatever. Like, you know, he just thinks it's all hoo ha wah wah. But my favorite part of the story, which I like to shine my light on him. Don's story was one of my, he's connected to Archangel Gabriel. I know he's probably like, I wish he would stop saying that, but I can't help it. I have an archangel on my team. So when we do sessions and stuff, and we have a spaceship, we do traveling, I bring him on, and sometimes we need Archangel Gabriel to step in and do some healing. So, you know, so sometimes, you know, I get a little too excited about it because, you know, we hear all these things in history and I just need to know like what's true and what's not. And so that's my thing. I'm like, I know people hate like the name dropping, but I kind of find it amusing sometimes. I'm just like, okay, you know.
Stone, can I get you to weigh in on something that's been going on actually in our house?
Okay.
Both me and the boy have seen a full body apparition that is apparently me.
Okay.
He come here. He is here and can tell you, like, I have been sleeping in the other room, but I have woke him up.
Yep.
He has seen me walk behind him while he's doing something in the kitchen, yet I'm still in the living room.
You saw that.
Yeah, I thought it was Spinja because I had my head down on my phone, and he looked back and went, "Oh, so that wasn't you?" I'm like, "That wasn't your mom?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "No, that was you." And I'm like, "No, it wasn't."
Well, if
I did.
if you know that it was you, and others are saying yes, it was definite. Work out what else you are doing at that particular time. If you're coming back to see you or those closest around you, there's something important that's going on. I take it as a warning sign. Okay, I take that as a warning sign. I've come back myself. My kids have seen me. They've turned around and they've said, "Oh, I saw." My grandkids have said, "Oh, look, I see Nana T." I was like, "How could you see me? You live miles and miles away. I saw you the other night." And I'm like, "Well, I know I went somewhere, but I know that I'm still here doing stuff." As I can have a conversation, I will hear somebody else's thoughts nearby and say, and I'm just blurted out, like just recently, is like, "No," I'm saying, "No, I don't want that happen. I'm not going to have that conversation with you. Don't even waste your time." And next minute, it's like they heard me and they didn't bother having the conversation. They moved on. And it's the same as, okay, I know when I am off visiting to check on one of my kids or one of my friends, they've even turned around and confirmed with me saying, "I saw you in the room. I smelt you in the room. What were you doing? What was the message? Why were you checking on me?" There's like recently I had a lady who I haven't spoken to for quite a while. She wrote to me the other day saying, "Have you just moved house? Because something's different about you." And she had absolutely no idea I was moving. So it's like, I had one night, something happened to me, and I had people from around the world and down the street ring me and say, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" "Because I heard you scream last night." And I'm like, "Well, I've got no reason to scream." But these people heard me, so they heard a version of myself getting their attention to warn me about something. So yours around you may be, and if you're showing up to yourself and you're catching it in the reflection of the mirror or something like that, and I've done that too, is like double take,
Yeah,
you
it was in my
you see.
peripheral.
Yeah. So say,
Wonder-
"Well, I know that you're there. What is it? What is it you're wanting?" Pick up a pen and a piece of paper or something and just clear your mind of whatever. Just know, it's like when you're looking at peripheral, you know that something's there, but you're not going to pay it too much attention because as soon as you do, it's gone. So if you just pay it that much attention with a pen and paper and see what flows, okay? See what comes out, see what messages. Don't even bother looking at the paper because that's going to distract you. All right. Listen to, some people hear ringing tunes. Some people hear words. Some people hear whispers. I mean, it'll start off as a whisper to begin with. So when I started seeing orbs, it was flashes of light, and I thought something was wrong with my eyesight. Then it started, okay, I started following it out of the peripheral, right? Because I knew I couldn't do this. So I followed it with the peripheral.
Yep.
Yeah. If I could see it with the peripheral, I can take a photo. So I started doing this, holding the camera here and watching them out of the peripheral. And before I knew it, I was watching them move by. And now I see them all over the bloody place.
We all started being able to see orbs with the naked eye in the house about 3 months ago.
And like he started off like just with, well, the other him just started off with the voice, because like twice he's woken me up from like dead sleep, or he's called me and he'd have been asleep or something, and then yeah, like orbs, and then like I've just been like the one time I thought I saw him walk past my room, and he was in his room, which is the complete opposite direction of mine. And then there was the one that he saw too. And then the other night I saw him laughing, like him laughing on the couch while he was in his room.
Yep.
Like,
The other thing I wanted to say too is you may also be leaving your body and having interactions with another version of your father and not realizing it. All right. So you might be doing the same thing that Don does.
All I know is I got a light in my eye right now that when I'm looking around, like when I'm looking at you guys, it's down here, it's a little light, and I'm looking and I'm thinking like, do I got something hanging off my face, like an eyelash? You know, I'm like, do I have an eyelash? And I'm sitting here and I can see it's like a light through my eyes. And I'm wondering if it's starting because my daughter said, Mom, you got something in your eyeball. And I looked at my eye and I think it might be both eyes. It looks like I have a ball in my eye, like little balls, and they glow in the inside. And I don't know what that is, but I remember when I was on one of my awakening excursions. I don't know, I went through so many phases, but the one phase where everything was coming online, like it was Christmas, you know, everything was popping left and right. I had what was I? Oh, they just wiped it out of my head.
The lights.
Oh, the lights. There we go. I took a picture with my friends, and a few of us, our eyes glowed.
Yep.
And my eyes were really glowing. And when I had asked in my session with my mother, I call her my mother, with Toy, I said, because they were talking about the eyes will glow. Our eyes will glow when we come online. When the Anunnaki come back, we're going to come online and our eyes are going to glow. And I said, do my eyes glow? And they said, you know, your eyes glow. And so I got them to sing, you've got the glow. So I had the higher self singing. It was so funny. It was funny. But yeah, they said that some people's eyes will glow. So when you take pictures, some people are like, oh, that's just the red. But no, there's a different, my eyes were orange. They like were glowing. There wasn't the red eye, you know, that. Oh, here's another thing I wanted to say. So what do you think of this? So my husband, I swear he's got like 3 faces.
Yep.
There's like 3 versions of him. Have you heard that before?
Yep, shapeshifter. Yep. Mine was like that. He was definitely a shapeshifter. I'd look over and then I'd be like double take. You see them change slightly, you know. I see in the early days it was more like a wolf. I was into the darker side of stuff. I was experimenting myself with all the energies and stuff that I was aware of. And I was also doing a lot of work with a native Indian medicine man who would keep coming back, and he was a guide. He was one of my guides. And he had a message, but it wasn't a message for me. It was a message for my partner at the time, who was the shapeshifter. There would be times I would go into different locations and I'd look at him and I'd say, you just changed. Your face just changed. I just watched your face change. And then I started noticing it on other people. And it was like, as soon as their personalities changed, I could tell when their personality was going to change because of the shift, the facial shift, you know. And it's not just the facial changes.
Everything.
It's also the eye color will change. The hair will suddenly, the wind will blow and the hair will be a different style. And I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, and you can hear it in their voice will change. And I also hear it when, and I've done this myself as well. I'll be talking away and all of a sudden a word with a different accent or a different meaning that I've never spoken before in this reality, this lifetime, boom, is mine. And I'm like, shit, where did that come from? why did I say that? You know, and it's like, you know, and it's, this is a shape-shifting ability that we all have. I'm a very strong believer that I'm a freak of nature and I'm a happy one, and I'm not alone.
Right.
You know, and I go by the basics. If I can do it, no matter what it is, then you can too.
Right.
Right? We all share this connective. Because we haven't kept up our practices of telepathy and stuff, doesn't mean it's gone. It's
Right.
still there. We still use it. We still hear those voices, but we don't know where they come from. When I was working with the bloods and the different cellular stuff in the body, you know, anatomy and all of this, what it came down to was I'm traveling through my brain one day and I kept hitting this wall. I kept bouncing off it, but I kept going back and hitting it, and I kept bouncing off it. And then one day I realized what I was doing. I'm just slightly moving the wall. I'm making it, now that I can see that it's actually a wall, I can do something else with it. So I can move it slightly and change it. So each time I changed it, I moved it and moved it until it fell away. And when it fell away, I saw this neuron speed straight past me and go on, and I had something new came to me, new information came to me. And I realized, okay, well, this is how it works. I have to use, it's like when you're saying you want to believe in something else, you're breaking down those walls. You're breaking down those programs. You know, in the early trainings and the early programs that I had was, there's a brick wall in front of you and it's all the way to the top and there's no way through it down the bottom. How are you going to get through it? You know, well, for a start, I'm not going to believe that there's just a brick wall that's that impenetrable. I'm going to find a way through it. Boom, that's your first clue. That's the first start. Okay, you've allowed yourself that key. Now you have to develop the lock so you can stick that key in the lock and create that door, create that ladder. Get a group of people together to support each other to get up and over that wall. You know, find a way. Nothing is set in stone. Nothing. All right. When it is, you know, it's a message. It's a key. It's a clue. It's a code to be broken that you can get through. And that's what I live by. There is nothing is set in stone that you can't change. You know, I myself spent a lifetime like you. I'm a survivor of a lot of darker stuff, darker energy. And I was trying to find meaning. And you know, I went down every doorway you can imagine. And I got to a point where I realized that I held on to the truth, and that was my light. That was my light energy. And it didn't matter what anybody else said or tried to reprogram or whatever. It didn't work on me. I stayed true fast to myself. I got angry because if there was such a thing as Jesus or my higher self or whatever it was, why did you put me in this state? Why did you allow me to go through what I went through and still go through? And so I went on the hunt for my higher version, my higher self, because I had a bone to pick with me. And then one day I found me. And that is a great journey to find one's self, because then when you find who you are, you find your self-worth, you find your self-value. You realize that every little thing around you is precious and beautiful and connected to who you are. You are part of that. And you know, if you are the best version of who you can be, and this means you're going to make mistakes, but you're not going to punish yourself the way you did yesterday. You're going to go, okay, thank you for that lesson, and you're going to move forward. And when you start doing those things you did to make that mistake, you'll go, oh, okay, thank you for the reminder, so you don't do it again. Okay, and this is the thing. It's the same with telepathy. It's the same with all the different clairs out there, clairvoyance, clairsentience, all of it. You will find your connection to whom and what it is you want to discover. And as much as we're all unique, we all have one real main thing in common. We want to know more. right? About ourselves, where we come from, how it all works. And if at the end of the day, it all turns out to be some mass stage performance, well, awesome. I had a great adventure. And this is just part of it. And I thank everybody, all us crazies, for being part of this absolute amazing adventure. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think you have been just a delight. I know that there's so much more we can go into and talk about. Oh my goodness, an hour is just not enough time. I would love to have you back again to be able to share more of your story. I know that, we are here to share our stories, so people can hear what we've been through. We all have a story to share and tell.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I loved it. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Would you like to let everybody know where they can find you, and all your links and shout outs to anybody you want to say hello to? Go for it.
I'd like to say thank you to Don. All right, first of all, thank you, Don. And I'd love to say thank you to you too, Maya, DJ Maya. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. And yes, absolutely, I'm happy to come back anytime and share whatever, wherever it goes. And you can find me most places. Just look up Stone Hobbit. My email is stonehobbit2, that's the number 2, @gmail.com. I have a web page out there, just stonehobbit.com. I've got a lot of different areas that I work in, and do one-on-ones, do group sessions. I have a meeting every rest of the world, your side of the world, on Wednesdays, my Thursday. And that is half by a hangout. And we just basically, it's just a get together, it's a hangout. We talk about whatever subjects come up. And you can also find me on Facebook if you hunt for the right person. If you don't give me an introduction when you do find me on Facebook, I won't answer and I will delete, because I get a lot of bots. So, but yeah, just look me up. If it's meant to be, it will be. And I'm happy to share, and thank you everybody for being the best versions of yourselves, and look forward to whatever may come.
Beautiful. Que sera, sera. DJ Pooh Bear, would you like to give some last words and let everybody know the deal? You know the deal.
Absolutely. And I am just going to say something that got said off camera with the mic off, was holy fuck, she's awesome. And that was from Canadian Finn just sitting right here listening the whole time. So that's the praise of this interview. So thumbs up. But yeah, all of my stuff can be found at March 4th Productions on YouTube and Rumble. If it needs to be edited, it's on Rumble in pure form. If not, it's on YouTube. But everything else is there, and you can add me on Facebook as long as you're not fucking weird. And other than that, love you all.
Awesome. Well, this has been another amazing interview, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. Please go to the YouTube page to see the video if you'd like to check us out, and you can comment below, let us know what you think, and make sure you follow Stone Hobbit and DJ Pooh Bear, Don, Mr. Rogers over there, because they're very fascinating and real people. So thank you guys. So we'll say goodbye to everybody. So say bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay. So I'm having trouble shutting my my recording off. I don't know why it wants to do this to me, but we'll say bye. And DJ Bear, you can connect with Stone after if you want. And thank you, Stone. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Blessings and infinite love. Thank you.